Today, Kiwi first-time buyers getting a brief look-in. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, one latest post covering finance and property news. Now, there was an interesting article in Bloomberg that said that New Zealand's house price slump has given first-time home buyers a welcome leg up in their quest to purchase a property, but it will probably be a short-lived opportunity. For a certain segment of the nation's would-be homeowners, those armed with sizable deposits and solid incomes, 2023 has been a heartwarming year, with first-time buyers grabbing a record 26% share of the market in the third quarter, according to CoreLogic New Zealand. While an 18% fall in house prices between November 21 and May this year made home ownership more obtainable, also working in their favour has been strong wage growth, a possible peak in interest rates, an easing of lending rules, and government policy changes. This is a window of opportunity, said independent New Zealand economist Tony Alexander. This is as good as it gets. But Alexander has further words of caution for those looking to get on the housing ladder. The clock is ticking. The housing market in New Zealand, and its 5.1 million people, give or take, has a tendency to garner outsized attention. It became a poster child of the pandemic housing boom when prices rose close to 30% in 2021, and then a bellwether when they unravelled last year. Buying a first home in the nation mirrors the experience in many other countries, often a frustrating cycle of scrimping away money for a deposit, only to see home prices rising faster than savings, or plans thwarted by changes in lending rules, which makes this year's opportunity stand out as an example of how the right market conditions, coupled with policy changes, can lift the group's prospects. So first-time purchasers are now also taking their chances in other countries. In the US, they have taken a bigger share of the nation's frozen housing market, according to a survey by real estate marketplace Zillow, while in the UK the cohort made up the largest chunk of property purchases with a mortgage last year. But the point here is that the opportunity may soon be snuffed out. Home prices, which had been expected to fall into next year, have started to stabilise, and now the central bank forecasts that they will rise this year as a surge in immigration and the prospect that interest rates are at or near the peak of this cycle will give buyers confidence. So Kiwis tend to fix their mortgage rates for less than 3 years, unlike in the US where it's more like 30 years is the norm, making the market particularly sensitive to rate changes. And also New Zealand's general election on October the 14th may also produce a result that fuels house price gains. The current Labour government curtailed a tax loophole in 2021 that had allowed landlords to deduct mortgage interest from rental income before paying tax on it. That had the effect of deterring some investors and helping first-time buyers snatch the record market share. But if the opposition National Party, which is currently ahead in the polls, wins the election, it has said that it will restore tax breaks for investors, and it is refusing to rule out loosening the rules prohibiting more foreign buyers from buying property in New Zealand. Those who have got the finance have found it a pretty favourable market. Kelvin Davidson, CoreLogic New Zealand's chief property economist, said about the current circumstances, also pointing out that while transaction numbers were low due to slow market conditions, the fact that first-time buyers held such a significant slice of the market was still meaningful. So there's a couple of observations which I think is worth thinking about here. Firstly, of course, when house prices do slide, then that does allow more people, particularly first-time buyers, into the market. And some of the interventions that were done earlier on to turn off property investors also allowed first-time buyers more access to the market. But the most significant changes were the recent reduction in lending standards that have allowed people to borrow more to be able to get in the market, to be able to buy a property. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this playing out in other countries too, because of course there is significant pent-up demand amongst first-time buyers, and that is partly because rents have gone through the roof in many countries too. And certainly all of my research suggests that if renters can see a glimpse of buying a property, then they will go for it at the moment. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out, but my suspicion is that this window of opportunity is relatively small and only open to those with significant savings by way of a deposit and a good job. If in fact recessionary forces flow over the top of that, we might see the whole thing change. So we'll be watching New Zealand because, as I said earlier on, this is a bellwether example of significant intervention in the market and not necessarily looking at the good outcomes that people want to see. Once again, it seems to me first-time buyers are actually the cannon fodder. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.